We've been reporting, as you have as well, on the developments that came out of the Aged Care Royal Commission yesterday, and it continues today. There's probably going to be more headlines there. What stood out for you the most, John?
Oh, look, I just think the general lack of preparedness. I think the federal authorities are really under the pump here because they just, obviously there were massive issues overseas, but there wasn't due diligence and the preparation for people who obviously were the most vulnerable in society.
And of course, this relates to New South Wales because we're being told that it can't include the Victorian crisis because it would be too much of a distraction to what's going on at the moment. But it kind of proves, doesn't it, that, despite what happened at Newmarch House, there was a good amount of time there for preparation to be done, like you said, but it just kind of wasn't enacted.
Well, it seems absolutely astonishing that there wasn't just panic buttons all over the place. There were problems clearly in New South Wales, and now you have even worse problems in Victoria. Now, it's interesting that the Royal Commission isn't going to be able to investigate Victoria, where the absolute bulk of the coronavirus deaths have been. I think that means inevitably, and I think there's a certain inevitability that there will be another Royal Commission, but this time into Victoria, and just the whole scenario in Victoria rather than just necessarily aged care. But I think it's going to be very embarrassing for Scott Morrison. I think basically he will want to be asking, well, why wouldn't you? The most obvious thing to do was protect the most vulnerable people, and obviously the aged care patients, the most vulnerable in society. So I think the federal government's really exposed on this, and they're going to be really embarrassed about it.
John, give us a sense of what you're hearing and, speaking to your contacts. I mean, the federal government is clearly trying to distance itself from the Victorian problems at the moment by calling it the Victorian outbreak. Little subtleties like that perhaps aren't so subtle in the end. Is that being felt by the Andrews government?
Oh, look, there are games being played, but the games have been played for the last probably 6 weeks, I think. There's a real tussle internally in the Liberal Party, federally and in Victoria, about how to respond to the failures. And there have been significant failures by the Andrews government. Let's not run away from any of those. But yes, there are big discussions, and basically the discussions have moved towards we, as in the federal Liberal Party and the government, must start attacking Andrews and must stake out the ground. Now, I'm not entirely sure that's what people want down here. See, what you have is this real, people in Victoria, I don't think they're looking for a political argument and a contest. I think they're looking for resolutions. I think people have factored in that they know that Daniel Andrews has made, and the government have made some terrible mistakes on hotel quarantine. But there's no doubt there's a big discussion internally in the federal government and the Victorian Liberal Party about how to approach this. Partly, if I can keep going, is that Michael O'Brien, the state leader, he's basically trying to give he's not going hard after Andrews. And I suspect that's probably the right strategy. But the Go Harder faction really want to get stuck into Andrews. So that's where the differing perspectives are.
Well, I read an interesting opinion piece from James Campbell from the Herald Sun on the weekend. He seemed to think that Dan Andrews won't make it to the next election. Basically, either he'll sort of get someone else ready for the job, but he actually won't campaign during the next election. Is that how you see it as well?
Oh, look, I do see that. I think it would be very surprising if Andrews makes it through the next election. However, I've got a bit more of an open mind on things. I think that the community down here is thinking very differently to what they are in Sydney and maybe Canberra and other cities. I think there's a real groundswell. There's a real group of people. I spoke to a senior Lib yesterday, and he's saying there's a lot of what he's finding in the election, a lot of middle-aged older women are very sympathetic towards Andrews and the fact that he's doing a lot of really hard work, whereas he's thinking that the small business, that aspect of the cohort, they're actually really into Andrews. So it's a little bit complicated. I actually think there's a very outside chance that Andrews can pull his way out of this, because what we're seeing at the moment is the coronavirus numbers are going down, and I think you'll see them to continue to go down. They'll bump around a bit, but they'll go down. He may well come out short-term looking like a hero. In another 6 weeks, that if it's all largely resolved, the problem will be, and I think I've been saying this for months, is the economy. And the economy is absolutely wrecked down here. So that's where it becomes really, I think, medium-term problematic for Andrews.
Yeah, if you keep getting, jobless rates increasing, that becomes a huge problem. And is that the same for Jenny Mikakos? And what has, the fallout been from those tweets on the weekend? The post-midnight tweets that Josh Frydenberg was keen to point out yesterday, that nothing good ever comes from tweeting after midnight. What's the reaction been from that?
Oh, look, I think I would say that Jenny Mikakos, I've written this a couple of times. I don't think she's up to it, and I don't think she's the person that should be running the show, because effectively the health minister is fundamentally doing a big part of this, I suppose, big part of the operation of trying to beat. So I don't think she's the person for the job. Now, she tweeted late at night. That's not the first time she's tweeted late at night. People have assumed she's drinking, but she's not. I'm told that's just not the case. I feel sorry for Andrews and what he's going through personally.
We might have to call
I think, the Twitter's not the answer, is it?